Durin the First, also known as Durin the Deathless, is the eldest of the seven fathers of the Dwarves, a central figure in the legends of Middle-earth. Created by Auli the Smith, one of the Valar, Durin was imbued with a profound resilience and wisdom that would mark him as a leader among his kin. His awakening under the starlit sky and subsequent journey south would set the foundation for the great Dwarven civilization. Durin awoke in the early days of Middle-earth, long before the rise of the sun and moon, beneath Mount Gundabad in the northern Misty Mountains. His awakening was part of the divine plan of Aule, who sought to populate Middle-earth with creatures capable of craftsmanship and hardy endurance. However, Aule's creations were put to sleep by Eru Ilúvatar until the proper time, so they would not precede the awakening of the Elves. When Durin finally stirred, he found himself alone. Unlike the other fathers of the Dwarves, who awoke with companions, Durin's solitude became a defining aspect of his character. This solitude symbolized his role as the progenitor of the Longbeards, the most enduring and influential line of Dwarves. Emerging into a world lit only by starlight, Durin began a long and solitary journey southward through the wild and untamed lands of Middle-earth. His steps were guided by a mix of curiosity and instinct, seeking a place that resonated with his deep, ancestral connection to the earth. In his travels, Durin crossed through valleys, rivers, and forests, marveling at the untouched beauty of the world. The stars above became his companions, and their light a guide. The isolation of his journey likely fostered a profound sense of endurance and self-reliance, qualities that would define the Dwarves he would later lead. Durin eventually arrived at a tranquil valley nestled within the Misty Mountains. In the heart of this valley lay a great lake, later known as Khazad-dûm, or the Mirror. When Durin gazed into the lake's still waters, he saw the stars reflected above his head, and in their midst, a crown of 7 stars seemingly placed upon his brow. This vision was taken as an omen, affirming that Durin had found the place destined to be the heart of his people. To mark the significance of this moment, Durin placed a great stone on the shores of the Mirror, inscribing it with runes of memory and reverence. This stone, known as Durin's Stone, became a place of pilgrimage for the Dwarves, a testament to their divine connection to the land and their founder's wisdom. Inspired by his vision, Durin led his people to begin the immense task of creating a home within the mountains. They approached the eastern face of Celebdil, Silvertine, one of the 3 peaks that would later be known as the Misty Mountains' crown, and they began to carve the first of Khazad-dûm's great halls. The Dwarves, endowed with unparalleled skill in stonecraft, worked tirelessly to hollow out vast chambers and intricate passageways. The first hall, facing eastward, became the gateway to their burgeoning kingdom. Its entrance was monumental, framed by ornately carved pillars and adorned with runes of welcome and strength. The designs were inspired by the natural forms of the mountains and the stars, a reflection of Durin's reverence for the land. Durin's leadership was marked by an unwavering commitment to his people and their future. He envisioned Khazad-dûm as not merely a stronghold, but as a sanctuary of Dwarven culture, knowledge, and artistry. Over time, the kingdom became a beacon of prosperity, a center of trade, and a place of unyielding strength. As the years of the First Age drew to a close, Durin had established Khazad-dûm as the most magnificent Dwarven kingdom in Middle-earth. He presided over an era of unparalleled prosperity, during which the dwarves mined mithril, crafted artifacts of extraordinary beauty and power, and expanded their influence through trade and diplomacy. However, even Durin, despite his legendary title, was mortal. By the end of the First Age, he began to feel the weariness of years. His people, though accustomed to his unyielding presence, came to understand that even their deathless king was bound by the natural order of the world. Durin spent his final years ensuring the stability of his kingdom, appointing trusted leaders to carry on his legacy and solidifying the traditions that would guide the Longbeards for generations. He also devoted time to preserving the knowledge and lore of his people, recording the history of their origins, the founding of Khazad-dûm, and the lessons of his long reign. Durin passed away peacefully, surrounded by his kin, in the deep halls of Khazad-dûm. His death marked the end of an era, but it also strengthened the belief in the enduring nature of his spirit. To the dwarves, his passing was not an end, but a transition. They believed that Durin's soul would be reborn in a descendant who would carry his name and rule with similar wisdom and strength. The dwarves honored Durin with a grand funeral, befitting his stature as their greatest king. They carried his body through the grand halls of Khazad-dûm, the very city he had built, singing laments in the deep, resonant voices that only dwarves possess. Durin was laid to rest in a great tomb deep within Khazad-dûm, a chamber carved from the heart of the mountain. The tomb was adorned with intricate carvings depicting his life and achievements, as well as the 7-star of Durin's crown, a symbol of his divine guidance. Around his resting place were placed treasures of mithril and precious stones, along with artifacts that symbolized his reign. Above his tomb, the dwarves engraved runes of remembrance, honoring his role as the founder of their greatest kingdom and the progenitor of their line. His final resting place became a sacred site, where future kings of Khazad-dûm would come to seek inspiration and guidance from his memory. Durin the First's unparalleled life and leadership created a legacy so profound that his people believed his spirit would be reborn in his descendants. Every few centuries, a dwarf would be born who bore an uncanny resemblance to Durin the First, both in appearance and in character. This dwarf would look so similar to Durin that he was considered his reincarnation, the return of Durin the Deathless. This cycle of reincarnation solidified the belief that Durin's spirit was eternal, bound to his people and their destiny. Among the reincarnations of Durin, Durin III was one of the most significant figures. He lived during the Second Age, a period marked by the rise of Sauron and the forging of the Rings of Power. Durin III ruled Khazad-dûm during a time of great prosperity and cultural exchange. His reign coincided with the height of Eregion, the elven kingdom west of the Misty Mountains, where the elven smith Celebrimbor worked to create powerful artifacts under Sauron's deceptive influence. Durin III cultivated a strong friendship with the Elves of Eregion, a relationship based on mutual respect and shared expertise in craftsmanship. This alliance brought wealth and knowledge to both realms. The dwarves of Khazad-dûm provided mithril, a precious and rare metal found deep within their mines, while the elves offered their unparalleled skill in magic and smithing. This friendship was unique as dwarves and elves were often wary of each other. However, the bond between Durin III and Celebrimbor exemplified the potential for harmony between their peoples. When Celebrimbor forged the 7 rings of power for the dwarves, he entrusted one of them to Durin III. This ring, known as one of the 7 rings of the dwarves, was meant to enhance their natural skill in mining and craftsmanship, amplifying their ability to uncover wealth hidden in the earth. While the ring granted Durin III and his people great prosperity, it also carried the subtle influence of Sauron, who had designed the rings to corrupt their bearers. However, the dwarves, resilient by nature, proved far less susceptible to Sauron's domination than men or elves. The rings did not enslave their wills, but instead intensified their greed and ambition, eventually leading to both great wealth and great strife. Under Durin III, Khazad-dûm flourished as never before. The kingdom became the heart of Dwarven culture and industry, a place of unmatched wealth and power. The mithril mines of Khazad-dûm reached their zenith, and the city's halls resounded with the echoes of Dwarven song and the ring of hammers. Durin III's reign also cemented the reputation of the Longbeards as the most enduring and resilient of the dwarves. His wisdom in forging alliances and his skill in leading his people made him one of the greatest kings in the lineage of Durin. Durin III passed this ring down through his lineage, ensuring it became an heirloom of the kings of Khazad-dûm. Durin VI, reigning in the late Third Age, was a ruler who inherited the majesty of Khazad-dûm, but also its growing peril. By his time, the kingdom had delved ever deeper into the misty mountains, driven by the need for more mithril. In their endless hunger for mithril, the dwarves of Khazad-dûm dug deeper than any other in the history of Middle-earth. With every strike of their picks, they ventured into the ancient dark, seeking veins of the precious metal that had enriched their kingdom. It was on an ill-fated day that their mining uncovered a vast cavern, silent and still, untouched since the world was young. Within its shadowed expanse lay something that should never have been disturbed, a Balrog of Morgoth, a creature of flame and shadow, one of the greatest horrors of the First Age. For millennia, the Balrog had slumbered in the depths, hidden away after the fall of Morgoth. The dwarves' relentless mining awoke it from its long rest, and with its awakening came a surge of fire and darkness that filled the caverns. Its emergence was heralded by a deep, resonant roar that shook the very foundations of the mountain. The Balrog erupted from the depths, a towering figure wreathed in flames, its whip of fire cracking through the air. Its eyes glowed like molten gold, and its very presence seemed to drain the light and hope from the grand halls of Khazad-dûm. The once bustling city was thrown into chaos as the dwarves, for all their might and valor, found themselves confronted by a foe far beyond their reckoning. Durin VI, the king of Khazad-dûm, was among the first to hear the cries of his people echoing through the mountain. Summoning his warriors, he led a host of armored dwarves to confront the intruder. Their axes gleamed and their shields bore the symbols of Durin's line, proud and unyielding. They were the Longbeards, the mightiest of the Dwarven clans, and they would not abandon their home without a fight. The battle began in the lower halls, where the Balrog's fiery presence turned the cool stone into searing heat. The dwarves charged with their war cries echoing, their axes striking true, but the Balrog was a foe of legend, a being forged in the ancient fires of Morgoth's hatred. Their weapons glanced off its hardened hide or melted in the infernal heat that radiated from its body. With the sweep of its fiery whip, the Balrog incinerated dozens of warriors at once. Its shadow stretched across the walls, filling the hearts of the dwarves with dread. The creature wielded a massive sword of flame, cleaving through stone columns as if they were made of paper. For every dwarf who fell, others stepped forward, their courage unwavering. Durin the Sixth himself led the charge, his great axe alight with the glow of determination. He struck at the Balrog with all his might, his voice raised in defiance. "By the name of Aule, you shall not claim our home." But the Balrog was not a foe of flesh and blood. It was a being of malice and ancient power. With one sweeping blow, it struck down the king. Durin the Sixth fell amidst the flames, his mighty axe clattering to the stone floor. His death was like a dagger to the hearts of his people. The warriors faltered, their cries of vengeance drowned in the roaring flames. With Durin the Sixth slain, chaos spread through the city. Nain the First, Durin's son, rallied the survivors and ordered a retreat. The halls that had once echoed with the sounds of hammers and songs of prosperity now resounded with screams and the deafening roars of the Balrog. The dwarves fled through the grand passages, their once proud banners reduced to ash. Families clung to one another as they raced for the exits, their treasures abandoned in the face of certain death. The mithril veins they had so greedily pursued now seemed a bitter curse. As the Balrog advanced, it left devastation in its wake. Its fiery steps scorched the ground, and its whip shattered the stone walls. The great gates of Khazad-dûm, carved with the history of the Longbeards, were the last sight many saw as they turned their backs on their home. Outside, the survivors gathered in the shadow of the misty mountains, their eyes fixed on the smoke and fire that billowed from the once great halls. Khazad-dûm, the crown jewel of the Dwarven realms, was lost. It was no longer a place of light and song, but a blackened pit, a tomb for their dead, haunted by the shadow they now called Durin's Bane. The death of Durin the Sixth marked the end of an era. The Longbeards, now exiles, wandered the lands, carrying with them the grief of their loss. Their treasures, their heritage, and their beloved king had been left behind, buried under the weight of fire and shadow. The halls of Khazad-dûm would remain empty for centuries, known henceforth as Moria, the Black Pit. Few dared venture into its depths, for the name of Durin's Bane became synonymous with death and despair. The dwarves, though resilient, would never forget the day their greatest stronghold fell to a terror from the ancient world. Durin's line survived, its legacy carried by those who endured. Yet the memory of the Balrog and the fall of Khazad-dûm became a somber reminder of the dangers of delving too deep, of the peril that lay in awakening the shadows of the past.